and a backpacking guide for a Christian camp in the hill country of central Texas. 2,000 acres of mostly untouched land on a crystal clear Nueces River. 25 miles of trail, 200-foot limestone cliffs overlooking the river. Think of private Patapsco State Park, but in a desert-like environment. I was there for 2.5 months, sleeping outdoors, and get this, my job title was Eagle Quest Adventure Guide. How cool is that? My hiking partner and I were in charge of taking church groups out for 6 days of backpacking trip on the Camp Eagle land. These groups came to us for leadership training, spiritual growth, exploration, and quite frankly, because Camp Eagle had such a loud reputation for being an adventure destination for outdoor enthusiasts, the church group came for the hike of it all. This particular week, the group my partner and I would lead was from an impoverished part of Houston. The youth leader, in all of her wisdom, wanted the backpacking and camping trip to be a surprise. All she told the kids, aside from that they're going to Camp Eagle for a week, was to bring comfortable walking shoes. Well, you can imagine the disappointment and confusion when the kids got off the bus and found out that they were not going to a normal camp, but a hardcore tent-in-the-woods wilderness survival kind of camp. And keep in mind, this was not punishment. Just a surprise. Let's take you out of the city and let's get you out of your comfort zone kind of surprise. In staff meeting a week prior, my boss had assigned us groups and made sure that I was the lead for a group with a boy named Marcus, a special needs teenager. What I knew was this. Marcus was born with his right leg on backwards, with his knee facing the opposite direction. Surgery had corrected this several years back, but Marcus walked quarter speed compared to the his average able-bodied peers. His gait was exaggerated, and he had the occasional muscle spasm. So there we were. The kids got their assigned backpacks, tents, sleeping pads, etc. 30 hikers in all, and we broke up into 3 groups of 10. The activities that had been planned for the group all involved miles of hiking each day. Just to get from the swimming pool to the high ropes course, you had to scale a ridge. It was about an hour-long hike, maybe more, considering the weight we were carrying on our backs. Plus, no one wants to be outdoors in July in Texas. It's heat stroke hot. When hiking or backpacking with a large group, it is customary, or let's just say it is wise, to put the slower person closer to the front of the line, so as to set the speed for the hike. You have, as we called it, a front door and a back door, meaning that in a line of hikers, you have an experienced hiker at the front and an equally experienced hiker at the end of the line, closing off any possibility that anyone would get lost or separated. Anyway, Marcus was our lead dude, setting the pace for the week's hike. Marcus was, at the time, 14 years old and a life of the party type guy. He had everyone laughing and asking questions. Marcus was engaging, Marcus was smart, but oh boy, was Marcus a slow hiker. I can still remember hiking up that first ridge with my group of 10. The first day of the hike is pretty much the heaviest your pack will ever be, getting lighter and lighter as time goes on because you're consuming the food you carry. But as we were following Marcus's lead, it felt like we were moving so slow that the peak of the ridge was getting further and further away with each step we made. From early team building exercises, we made the decision to stick together as a group. And you know, the real trick of that week was not Marcus per se. It was more about managing the combined expectations, the combined group expectation. We had made that decision to stick together as a group, no matter the pace of the hike, no matter the disappointments that this could cause. But by day 2, we all let it sink in. We, as a group, were moving quarter speed, and as a group, we would only get to about a quarter of the planned activities. To be a teenager, and to have 12 exciting activities planned for you at your fingertips, and to only participate in 3 is a major blow to group morale. We were talking rock climbing, rappelling, a trust fall pole grab off a cliff, zip lining over a river, etc., etc. The paradox of patience and vulnerability sets in. My partner and I, along with the kids, have, on some level, accepted certain losses in order to stay together as a team. I won't even pretend to know exactly how Marcus felt, knowing that in some ways, he was holding the rest of the group back. As the week went on, we could see the frustration in some of his peers' faces. We had all heard patience is a virtue, but why do we have to be so virtuous and stick together as a group? As the leader this particular week, I will admit that there were times that I wanted to run ahead with the other kids and allow them to do the trust fall exercise. It was so much fun, but we wouldn't have the time. But I was not an individual acting on my own whims. We were a group living in slow motion and acting our slow motion love to God by forging a new timeline. Matthew chapter 22, verses 21 states, "Therefore give to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and give God the things that are God's." Give to God what is God's. In a world of competing ideals and dichotomies, either-or statements, black or white statements, there exists dualism and the propagation of dualism at every turn. Hurry up, we gotta move. We gotta move to the next task, so on and so forth. Just look here. Right here in the scripture for the day. The Pharisees were trying to trap Jesus in this dualistic way of living in the world. Is it this or is it that? Jesus knew, as we ultimately know, things are just more difficult than either-or thinking. God gives us opportunities to listen and respond every day. Are we in tune? How do we give God what is God's if we are too preoccupied with Caesar? And which things are Caesar's? Are we in tune? Can we hear? I want us to think of patience as an act of being vulnerable. Giving God what is God's, especially in a hurried culture, means slowing down, and the very act of slowing down exposes our vulnerability. What does this look like in each of our lives? And why is trauma so often the thing that slows us down? Give to God what is God's. In a time of hectic lives and busy schedules, my prayer is that we give God the gifts of our patience and our vulnerability. To make oneself vulnerable is a scary thing. Vulnerability is in many ways making our interior life visible for others to see. When the rest of the group submitted to a slower timeline, we became more in tune with ourselves and accepted that we were not in control. Vulnerability is the currency of intimacy. When we expose ourselves so truly and honestly to others, we have no choice but to dig deeper. Vulnerability is a disruptor of emotional distance. Vulnerability is a silence breaker. And after all, vulnerability is just another way of spelling justice. All of these characteristics of vulnerability were being so clearly presented to us that week at Camp Eagle. And all we had to do was get out of the way and let God speak to the experience. Marcus continued to smile and laugh and be the life of the party. We carved him walking poles out of tree branches, and the group continued to redefine our expectations. Marcus is not the hero of this story. We don't need another happy, do-gooder, disabled person making us feel better about ourselves. I am not the hero of this story, nor is my partner. We, as a group, were attempting to give God what is God's in the way that showed compassion, patience, and vulnerability towards Marcus and towards ourselves. The truth is, I haven't figured out the give to Caesar what Caesar's part. Is it routine? Is it obligation to social norms? Is it our role to play in a globalized economy? I could posit who are our contemporary Caesars, but I'll spare you the editorial. I don't know, and I won't pretend to tell you. I do know that there is merit in slowing down, and there is faithfulness in vulnerability. And that, I pray, is what we can give to God.